Hello Internet. So I'm trying to figure out how to fix this motherboard here. I don't know what's wrong with it. All I know is that last time I remember I had the GPU just near the slot and the board booted by itself and it would not boot since. And the speaker here is just like chirping. It gives me chirp, chirp. As a matter of fact, I can probably show you what it does. And but I gotta put the BIOS chip back. This, by the way, is the BIOS chip. Look at this little tiny guy. Comes right off. I gotta figure out how to put it back like this. Let me go ahead. Yeah, it's turned off. So I'm gonna try to shove it in there. I do not have the proper tool to do that. Actually, I do. I just don't know where it is. Let me shove it in real quick. Go in there, you little bastard. There. So what the board does is you will hear it. So I'm gonna power it on, and then it says chip. So here we're powering it on. I'm getting some codes running on the E6. Yeah, E6, and then it will reset to D0. And then that click is like constantly click, click. So I'm guessing, power this off. I can't even power this off. It's stuck in a boot loop. I'm guessing we have a power BIOS issue, but I need an adapter to flash this. So until I get that, can't do anything about it. So hopefully in a couple of days, I will get that delivered, the adapter, and then we can take it from there. But the subject of today's entertainment is the Flux from the Black Horse Beard, whatever, this guy. Which, for some funny reasons, his logo looks like that BIOS chip. Very cool. Also, so we're going to be trying his Flux. So, I've already tried to reball this, but I wanted to show you how it behaves. So, first order of business is we're going to remove whatever solder is on this core. And this, by the way, is the core that's it's like a 4080, 3060, 3070. Yeah, same layout. But the thing with this particular core is that its pads are kind of close together. So it makes it somewhat challenging to reball with the paste that I normally use. So instead, sometimes what I do is I use fake Kingbo from China, and that happens to work really well. But today we're going to see how well this thing works with removing whatever solder's on the chip, as well as wicking it and reballing the chip. So here we go. This is already leaded, by the way, but that shouldn't really matter a whole lot. And I don't really care about damaging the chip. The core is dead here anyway, so who cares? I can be a little bit aggressive, but I'm not going to be any more aggressive than I usually am. So still going to do the edges first, and we're going to go into the detail observation of this flux under a microscope, how it behaves, whether it boils or burns or turns dark or whatever, how it applies on the core. That was a limiting factor. But the smell, oh, it just smells so good. I don't know. I love the smell, guys. I don't know, just for the smell, I love this stuff. So here we go. Got the flux all mixed up. Let's go and wick it off. It wicks nice too. Nothing unusual here. There's a little bit too much flux on the core right now, so but I did wick it before with the minimum amount, and it was fine too. Though I don't feel that lubrication. I must say that I do not feel that lubrication that I felt with his earlier version, the Whiskey Tango, whatever he calls it. Yeah, that thing was just butter smooth for whatever reason. I'm not feeling that here, but also at the same time, this flux here looks a lot more polished, a lot more finished, a lot more professional, if you will. Yeah. So just wipe it off, wipe the edges. I'm guessing it's going to be cleaned with alcohol as easy as any other batch that I've tried so far. Every single one of them was the same. So as long as the base component is the same, I am assuming it's going to behave the same way. So let's zoom out here a little bit, put this away, bring in the stencil, wipe the edges. It cleans nice. But it's because the chip is hot, can't really give it any fair judgment. Not yet anyway. And we're going to be doing a driver Mosfet. We're going to do some tweezer work. We're going to do some micro soldering. We're not going to be doing pad repair, but we're going to do micro crack repair with this flux, and we're going to see how this thing behaves and what would be its suitable application. So far, with just reballing the core, my experience was very, very positive. I would say it's about 98% ready to tackle pretty much any core reballing process. All right, so I'm going to cool this chip down just a little bit to give it the... Actually, you know what? I haven't tried this. But the first time I tried it on a cold chip. So the chip is now room temperature. And so when I were to apply the flux, as you can see here, there's very little problem with spreading the flux. Very little. It feels thick, but it's not so thick that I would have to use a hot air to warm up the flux. Whereas with fake Kingbo flux from China, I will absolutely have to heat the flux in order for me to spread it anywhere near as good as it spreads here. So let's see, I can even tap it. No problems whatsoever. So the flux is super evenly spread, as you can see by the reflection. Yeah, but the thing is, because the flux isn't very thin, it's rather on a thicker side, it doesn't spread as thin as I would want, and subsequently that creates a small problem where balls like to get attracted to each other. As a matter of fact, I've had about 2 or 3 balls stuck together because of that. Now, my question is, what if I apply a little bit of heat on the core? Will that soften the flux, or will it dry it out instantly, preventing me from doing anything with it? And judging by... As a matter of fact, let me go ahead and wipe this out completely, because I know I have too much flux on this core right now. I'm gonna go wipe it out. Wipe it clean like nothing ever happened. See, right there. So let's heat the chip just a little bit as I normally would for the Kingbo, and apply roughly the same amount, if not less. And hopefully that's going to allow me to spread this thinner and faster. As a matter of fact, it does. I can feel that it actually allows me to spread this thinner. So maybe that's all I needed to do. Just a little bit of heat. Very little, not a whole lot. Just maybe double the temperature of whatever the chip is, which I'm guessing would be anywhere from, maybe 50 or 60 degrees or so. Just warm to touch. So, and it doesn't look like that. It's hard to say. It feels like it's thinner. Maybe I can try again, spread it some more, and it still hasn't dried yet. So it still allows me to spread, which is good. Whereas before, I can do one wipe and that's it. Going back, it would not allow me to wipe anymore. Whereas now, I can definitely thin this out, no problem. So, but like I said, I still would prefer if this flux was a little bit thinner than what it is right now. Let's see. And that would make this process a lot easier. So I'm going to use 0.45. I'm not going to cheat. I don't want to use 0.4. That's going to make the job less challenging for the flux to complete. So we're just going to give it the usual, as I usually do. Let's go under a microscope, check balls for the alignment, just to make sure that everything is lined up. And the balls are so tight I can't even see if they're lined up or not. So we're gonna have to lift. Yeah, they're good. We have a couple of missing balls here. This ball here, this pad was contaminated with something. I don't know. This ball looks like 0.35 got in the mix. Sometimes that happens. You gotta watch out for these rogue balls here. They get mixed up with, especially if you don't clean your jig very well every single time. You end up having balls, different ball sizes that came from, if you were reballing a different chip that needs smaller size balls and you use the same jig, then you could end up having problems like the one I'm having right now. It's okay if some of the balls aren't sitting perfectly. That's actually good. That creates more challenge to the Flux ability to pull the balls where you want them to. So you can kind of see here, I'm intentionally leaving these balls spread apart. So if Flux is any good, it will have enough surface tension to pull these balls onto their pads. And this Flux does that. As a matter of fact, like I said, I've tried it already, and it did a wonderful job centering the balls on the pad without the need to flood the chip with Flux. So let's see if we can finish off here like that. That looks reasonably messy, intentional a little bit. So who cares? Let's go ahead and take this thing out, put the core on a hot plate, such as this one here, and let's go through the usual reballing process. So let's clean this guy. Every single time you use your stencil, wipe it and blow it through. And then we wipe the edges here, and it is ready to use. But that's my stencil jig. Your jig is different, obviously, but regardless, the process should be the same. You gotta clean it every time. So, looks fine, smells absolutely amazing. It does not, I have to leave it as is in the syringe for a couple of days at least to see if it's gonna clog up the syringe, if it's gonna dry itself out. Every single Flux before, except for this one that he sent. This one was a third iteration. This one's completely liquid, but completely useless at the same time. It would harden to a point where you can't even squeeze it out of the syringe. So I'm guessing that problem is resolved with this blend. So what we'll see. Okay, we're gonna start introducing a little bit of heat. Just speed things up a little bit, and we're going to zoom in as much as I can, as much as my camera allows me, so we can see the entire chip. Unfortunately, my camera does not have any kind of lens that I can get rid of the glare. The only way to get rid of the glare is to turn off the lights. Well, that kind of helps. So let's see. So as you can see, the balls, especially the ones that were here on the left, they are centering just fine. I think this is it. Yeah, this is it. So as you can see here, the chip has perfectly reballed. But what you may also notice is if you can see this reflection, you can see, hopefully you can see this, that the chip is a little bit, I cannot get any closer, can I? Let's go under a microscope so we can get a better picture. Let's turn on the light, switch over to microscope. And you'll see my only complaint so far is that under just the right angle, let me see if I can find the angle, there we go. So a little bit of wetness left, just a little bit, not a whole lot, but if possible, it would be nice to get rid of that, because that wetness, I don't know what component that is that's left, you know, out of the entire mix. That could be corrosive, I don't know, but it's very minimal, so it's probably not going to cause any issues. And regardless, I'll be doing more testing about the corrosiveness of this and all of my other Flux. I just want to see. But otherwise, every single pad, including the ones that were messed up. And by the way, I have to repeat myself, this was not an easy chip to reball. Every single ball has settled perfectly. Let me go ahead and remove the lens so we can get a very close look at these balls. And you can see it's almost perfectly dry, but a little bit wet. So basically it evaporates, but not completely, which is fine. I would still like to see it evaporate more, and you can also see it's almost like some particles left behind. Must be something, I don't know. whatever it is, the reball was a complete success, and by reball I mean setting the balls onto the chip. So the next, probably most challenging chip to reball would be GDDR5X. I'm going to do this just for my own amusement. I hate these chips. They are difficult to reball, even with whatever Flux I ever tried. Doesn't matter. Because the pads are so close together, it's ridiculously difficult to prevent the balls from moving around. Alright, so we're gonna first probably want to wipe this off, make sure it's clean and doesn't have any grease from my fingers. Now let's try that Flux. You can kind of see like it's not perfectly clear. There's a little bit of cloudiness in it. And my guess is that's what's getting left behind when it all burns out. So what I want to see is I want to make a layer as thin as I possibly can, or basically the usual amount that I apply. So because I don't want to stress too much about the application of the Flux. So I think we're gonna be okay. If the balls don't settle perfectly centered, that's fine. The more challenge, the better. So let me go and pour the balls in there, dump them out, and let's have a look. I think they're okay. Yeah. Let's remove the stencil, and yeah, that looks fine. Now let's take this chip, put it over here on a deathbed. So another thing I noticed that the balls, they hardly move. You're blowing air on it and they stay on their pads very well. That's another incredible feature. The balls hardly shift, so the tension seems like it's almost just right. It just needs a little tiny tweak. Just make it thinner, just a little bit. So let's see how that does. And it looks like we're struggling to, or maybe it's me. It looks like it needs a little bit more Flux. Yeah, just applying too little was a bit of just not enough. We need a little bit more Flux, as you can see. So I'm gonna have to flood the chip because some of the balls just refuse to stick. And even with the best Flux that I have, I would often find myself flooding the chip. Hopefully this will do. Kind of funny, it wants to move, but it didn't get... Oh, I see what's going on. So it looks like the pads have a little bit of contamination. So let's see if we can... There we go. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, it looks like the some of the pads we have here were actually contaminated, such as this one here that was causing issues. Yeah, I don't know. It looks like it did its job just fine. You've seen zero boiling whatsoever, so that's very good. Yeah, it looks good for whatever reason. I don't know. Every ball is there, hardly shifted, and the one that was on this side, it almost wanted to, I mean, it was almost touching this, but it did not stick together, which is kind of impressive and very unusual. So who knows? All right, so next test on the list would be to torture this board. I'm going to desolder a Mosfet, and I'm going to solder it back down and see how it goes. Then we're gonna go into the crack and try to do some micro soldering with some wires, and we'll see how that goes. Before, the biggest challenge with his earlier revisions, or earlier blends, such as this is the one of his first blends. As you can see, just sitting few hours in a syringe, it starts to sort of turn into like sugar, sort of, you know. It becomes hard, and if it sits longer, it becomes impossible to get it out of the syringe. And so with that there, the visibility becomes low, but that's fine. Once you start applying heat, it kind of goes away, as you can see here. But we've had a lot of boiling and a lot of foaming. And the issue with foaming in particular is that if when I'm doing a chip like this and I iron the edges of the chip, as you can see I'm doing now, I cannot see, like the foam would sometimes obstruct my view, and I can't see if the pins on the side actually soldered properly. So and I would find myself having pins shorted as a result. So as you can see here, this is all foaming and bubbling like this, while it smells absolutely incredible. I love that smell. And it also cleans easy, you know, yada yada yada. But this is old stuff, right? Today we're going to be using the new stuff. So the board is still cold, just add more insult to injury. So let's go and wipe this out with alcohol. It dissolves relatively easy. We just have it kind of too much of it in there, and the board isn't that warm anyway. So yeah, a little bit more. I want to remove all of that old flux so that we do not contaminate it with the new. I think that should be enough. Now let's apply the new flux and see how well that works. And right away you can still see a little bit of that cloudiness, but it's way less. Now let's clean the tip so that we do not contaminate. By the way, the tip that I just used became contaminated very much, to a point where I have to clean it. So, but let's see how well this flux does. You can see very little bubbling, almost non-existent. See this right there? This is looking very good. I can see all my pins very clearly. You can see it too. And I'm going to burn the heck out of this. It looks like it's doing really good. It doesn't even smoke anywhere near as much, though it still smokes. So, and the tip, there's still a little bit of contamination. Let's go ahead and wipe the tip off one more time and just have the tip. See how it looks. So this is the tip right now. Let's just burn this stuff and lift and down and lift. I don't see like a whole lot of contamination. The tip seems to stay relatively clean. Yeah, so that's good. Yeah, it looks clean, though a very tiny layer starts to build up. Hard to see. And as you can see here, it starts to turn a little dark in this area here. Now, let's see if I can wipe this out. Wipes off very easy. Well, but that's not very fair because the board is now hotter than it was before. So, but regardless, if I can wipe it when the board is hot, that means cleaning is easy in one way or another. A little bit of alcohol and bam. Yeah, I think we're good. So it seems like it's doing really good with the pins. I had some serious issues with the pins, being unable to see them. And please don't judge the soldering right now because I didn't care. Now let's switch over to a Mosfet. And exact same problem. I will show you what the old flux did. Was absolutely horrendous. So as soon as I apply the old flux, we see all that foaming, bubbling, and the flux starts to float everywhere. I'm just gonna wipe it off because I don't like it. It starts to flow everywhere, and it refuses to stay on the chip, and it just flows everywhere, and it just gets blown away as well. So let me wipe this off really quick. So now let's see if I can apply the new flux, see what that does. No bubbling, so it's nice and clean. That was one of the biggest problems, and all that bubbling and foaming was what was preventing the earlier revisions of that blend to seep under the core. So I was never able to use it for core removal without having issues, like without it bubbling too much and going places where I didn't want it to go. So let's remove this driver Mosfet, see how well that works. There we go. Well, let's put some solder there so we can pretend that we're putting in a different Mosfet. And the only difference is the presence of leaded solder. So we're just gonna put that leaded solder here so we don't have to do it on the chip. And let's throw that Mosfet back on here. Make sure we orient it correctly. I'm not really sure which orientation is correct. I think like this. Huh? Yeah, I think this is it right there. So I probably want to add a little bit more flux. Though it looks like we have enough, but I usually add more so that way the chip is not floating in the air, so it doesn't receive a heat stroke. And there we go. Just gonna wait a second for this thing to cool down. And let's iron the edges. The part where that was very difficult to see with the old flux, but with the new flux I can see pins very clearly, as you can see, so I can verify that every single pin is separated from the rest and is indeed properly soldered, has a lot of solder on it. Every single pin looks absolutely gorgeous, except for the output ones. These are joined together, so It's okay if these look like this. I don't want to make it worse. It's absolutely fine if these pins look like this. But every other pin needs to be absolutely separated. So we're gonna play with the iron a little bit more, just for the sake of entertainment. Yes, very good job. Let's wipe this off. And while the board is hot, look at this. I wiped most of it. That's exactly what you want. So, all right, let's go and throw this board on a heating pad so that we can start playing with a crack repair. This is my heating pad. So turn that on and let's bring in that board that's boiling hot at this point. And that's exactly what we want anyway. Toss that here. And let's go under a microscope so we can have a look inside of that crack and see how ugly things can go sometimes. But I created that on purpose. So right there. Let's go ahead and polish the pads just the same way as they would be polished, so that way we don't have a layer of oxidation on them, because I usually get them polished before I start, so that way we don't create any kind of extra resistance for the solder to do its job, or for the flux rather. Okay, let's put that new flux on here. I'm gonna tin the pads, see how well that works. I expect no problems after what I've seen so far, but I don't know. Oh, gotta switch to tip mode. Okay, so we got a little bit of tin there, tin here, tin there. So far, no problems. Applying the tin on the pads. Let's go ahead and get some wires prepped. I'm going to take probably the worst possible wire to work with, 0.02 millimeter, and I'm going to apply. Hopefully you can see that wire. Yeah, there it is. And let's see if I can prep that wire with that flux. Shouldn't be a problem. Yeah, that wire is prepped perfectly fine. But any flux can do that, so there's nothing to brag about. Gotta be very gentle with the wire. And let's go back into the crack and see if we can solder that wire onto the pads, or those traces rather. Okay, let's see. So we're gonna put a little blob on the tip of the wire. So this here is going to be medium wire, medium trace repair. Maybe I can do something like this. No issues there. No issues with that. And the next two traces are gonna be the finest trace repairs. Those are the most difficult ones. They are super tiny, as you can see. Maybe I can put a little bit of what's like this. Okay, we got that. And now we need to get here. Perfect. Okay, so we're done that. And I am still able to see what I'm doing. The flux has not turned dark to a point where I can't see anything. It's also flowing easily, just like water. So I am perfectly capable of doing this repair with this flux. Whereas before it would turn into jelly, and it would turn like into caramel, so to speak, or jelly or whatever, and it would become very difficult to do anything. Okay, so I think that works. It's a little tricky because I want to have. It's easier if it was cut here and there, but because it's cut so close, it makes it difficult because the solder will melt on one end while I'm trying to solder the other, and that's perfectly normal and it has nothing to do with the flux. So okay, that looks like it's soldered. All right, let's go ahead and remove this. There we go. So let's move around the flux. It's still liquid, still very much usable, I think. Yeah, it's not resisting anything, so absolutely flawless. And by flawless, I mean it flows easily. So let's wipe this off, and we're going to compare this with the best, the world's most fanciest, best of the best flux that exists in the universe, the NF.flux. Look at this beauty. Look how clear this thing is. Let's go ahead and wipe the tips. I'm going to remove this repair. There we go. Okay, the repair is removed. And let's try to repeat the exact same process as we have, except this time we're using NF.flux. What more do you want? All right, so here's our stuff. Put some solder here. Let's do the medium one first. No issue there. A little bit too much solder on the tip. Let's get rid of that. See, I need some solder on that tip. I just don't want that much of it. Give me some solder on that tip. There we go. Alright, so let's cut that wire loose. Our nf.flux will also work, but it will also stink. And we're having exact same problem as before. The traces are just too close, but we got them now. We got them done, yeah. See, the thing with nf.flux is that it will evaporate sooner, and if I'm not mistaken, it will. See, that's what nf flux is doing. You burn it long enough, you will eventually end up having this, and that, when you're doing these little tiny cracks, that will screw you up big time. So that's why I do not use nf.flux for anything. I still have about half a syringe left, and I thought I would demonstrate it one last time before I call it quits. So you can kind of see here, I just tried to move the things around, the wire around, and it gets cut under this little goo or whatever this thing is, and it's giving me a problem. I'm sure he's not gonna be happy with this, so, but whatever, it is what it is. So there we have it. The repair was a success. I would say, I must admit that the nf.flux has better surface tension and potentially better heat transfer, because you know, not everything transfers heat the same, like copper, aluminum, or stainless steel or whatever. Even not all thermal pastes have the same thermal conductivity. But the nf.flux will transfer heat a bit more efficiently or better, so it makes soldering a little bit easier, and the tension of the surface that it provides also aids to the process of touching two things together, because they like to stick together because of the surface tension. So whereas the black horse flux, while it's outperforming it in several other areas, it could benefit in blend modification that would promote surface tension. But you know, whatever, it is what it is. Not all flux is perfect. So, and if I were to use the flux that I used all the time, this is the flux that I used all the time for doing this kind of repair. You can see how cloudy this is, but as with any of them, once you start using it, it's perfectly normal, and it has a good surface tension. But the only problem I have with this flux is that, as you can see here, it evaporates very quickly. So I would have to add over and over all the time. I would not be able to finish this crack without adding this flux at least once. Whereas with the Blackbeard, I was able to do it once, just add once, just put it in there once, and you're done. And that's probably all there is I wanted to share in terms of this flux. So there's a little bit of Northridge fix still left, about half of the syringe. I don't use it for anything. It's just kind of sitting there reminding me of the day I bought it. Not sure why. This is our new Omega 559. That's what we've been testing today. And this is the, what is this? Oh, this is his first blend. Yeah, that's the very first, what do you call it? Whiskey Tango. This is the fourth one. And as you can see here, even though he got it mixed better, there's no bubbles anymore. It still likes to turn white and becomes hard. Yeah, so it becomes harder to squeeze it out. Little piece come out. Yeah, I don't know, there's some kind of a chemical separation or something happens inside that kind of changes the way it looks. So whatever the issue is, I'm sure he's gonna figure it out. So if you guys are interested trying his flux, I'll probably list his channel in the description or in the comment, or pin it in the comment. Yeah, I'll probably pin it in the comments. That'll be easier for you to find it. And that will be it for this test. I will be definitely using this flux 100%. I still have a lot of other flux that I need to use that I paid good money for. So obviously I can't just throw it away and start using his stuff. But you know, that'd be stupid, because whatever the flux I have, it still does what I need it to do. And if I get to a point where I realize that his flux is so much better, why am I wasting my time even you know, trying to save the flux that I already have. Just throw it away. Just like I will with this Northridge Fix stuff. I'm gonna throw it away and save the syringe because the needle. Because I think that needle has more value than his flux. And I've ran about 2 minutes cycle on this core that we reballed from earlier. Let me go and blow it out and see if that was enough to clean off whatever residue was on the core. Now you gotta understand that this is a very, very gentle ultrasonic. Let's go under a microscope and see if the core is perfectly clean. And the core is perfectly clean. Not a speck, not even a speck of residue. Absolutely perfect. So this is by far the best flux I've tried reballing this particular chip, because this chip is usually a pain in the butt to a point where I don't even use my beloved flux for that. Instead I resort to fake Chinese Kingbo, but that sometimes forces me to add just a little bit in some places where it's kind of tricky to apply it and you have to apply heat to spread it, you know. But with the Black Horse we were able to get that done a lot easier, and not to mention the worst chip ever, GDDR5X. Let's have a look at it under a microscope and see just how much closer the pads are on that chip are compared to the core, and you will see, well, they're not that close, but they are closer. So I can see the why we had some problems. So we had problems with this chip because, as you can see here, that pad where the solder did not adhere, hopefully you can see this, is contaminated. There's something dark brown on there, and I saw this when I was cleaning it, and I should have taken care of it, but I didn't. But the fact that this ball did not stick to any other balls while everything else was melted is a miracle. So normally, if the ball isn't soldered to the pad and the temperatures are high at a melting point, then that ball with the surface tension is just gonna wander off and go to whatever and get soldered to whatever ball that's closest. But in this case it didn't happen. So also, let me see, since we have this chip completely flooded, I was about to end the video, but let's go ahead and throw this chip into the ultrasonic and see what it does. See how easily it will clean. So there's our chip completely submerged. Let's turn on the sonic, see how easy it's going to get cleaned in a cold alcohol. So the water is cold. Let's see how effective it is. So even if this flux will not pass a no clean test, cleaning it would be super easy. If we manage to clean that much flux, which basically means a completely flooded chip with just one cycle of a very, very gentle ultrasonic cleaner. Normally they are much more harsher or more stronger, more powerful, whatever the word I'm looking for. And obviously I don't use this to clean the entire board, just the chips when necessary. So I am sure it'll be much more effective if I were to use a higher power ultrasonic cleaner in my garage. So you can see there's a little bit of that flux still there, and it's kind of gooey, breaking down. I don't know, you can probably see how it's like floating. Yeah, so it's definitely getting loose, but not coming off as fast as I wanted. That's because the alcohol that's in here is cold, so we're just gonna have to wait. Or we can increase the temperature, or wait for the cycle to finish, see how it looks. I doubt it's gonna clean it 100%, but this isn't even a fair test anyway. I just wanted to see just like the worst possible way to clean it and see how well it cleans it. So let's just move it over here so we can see the whole chip. Yeah, I can definitely see it's breaking down. It's gonna take a while. There's a very thick layer of this stuff. Alright, cycle is complete. This was like a minute long, I think, or 2 minutes at best. Let's see, let's blow this chip out. See how much of the flux is actually removed. Look at that. Everything has been removed. The chip is practically spotless. Nice. This was probably the laziest cleaning attempt of that chip. In fact, my favorite Flux, it doesn't even... Ultrasonic can barely get it off. Barely. It still leaves white residue on the chips to a point where I will almost always have to brush the chip in the end to get rid of it. Just absolutely hate it. So that's why I don't do anything with this Flux other than applying it, you know, just to set the balls on, and then after that. But the good thing is it evaporates almost 98% clean, so the chips don't need any cleaning afterwards. But it looks like this thing had outperformed almost any Flux that we've tried so far. So definitely put this on into your shopping cart and head over and try it out. At the very least, give it a try. The prices are very reasonable, if not cheaper than its competitors. So best of luck. Thank you, Black Horse, for providing me with the sample, and please stop sending me free samples. Let me pay for what you sell. You need to be paid for all the work that you put into this. So goodbye. Oh, I almost forgot. I thought we were gonna do some tweezer work here with that Flux, so let's do that real quick. That way we don't forget anything. So let's go under a microscope, and we're gonna try to solder some of them capacitors on the data line because they are isolated and not grounded. So let's see just how easy or how difficult could that possibly be with this new Flux from Black Horse. Alright, so let's see if we can do this the usual way. The tip of the tweezers is a lot harder than the tip on my soldering iron. These tips are 450, whereas the soldering iron is at 330. So that's gonna be interesting. That's why, see, the reason why it's hot is because I need to get these things off quick. And as you can see, hardly any problems. I can get this thing off, put it back down, super easy. Now the reason why it's easy, and even considering the fact that we have leaded solder, is because these caps are not grounded. If the caps are grounded, you're boned. So, but let me go ahead and clean the tips one more time. Gonna apply some more Flux, and we're gonna start observing the tips and see how contaminated they become. And as you can see there's a yellow buildup starts to accumulate on the tips. That's because the temperature for the Flux is too much, and so that's kind of not the fault of the Flux. That's perfectly normal because we're kind of dealing 450 is too much. See all that burning stuff accumulating on the tip? That's expected. So we can probably compare that to, let's say, let's wipe this off. I just threw away Northridge 6 Flux. Let me go dig it out of the trash can there. So we can put that here, and then we're gonna do the exact same test. I don't have a needle on it anymore, obviously. We're gonna apply a whole lot of it so that we can saturate the tips of the tweezer. See, the tweezer is now clean, just like we did before. A whole lot more smoke. And you can see that the tip instantly became dark. Like it's not even, yeah. I don't know why. You guys tell me. But the tip is instantly dark, and that stuff stinks. It does not smell good. Let's go and wipe this off before he hit the dislike button, because I know he's watching me. Oh, he's watching me, man. Him and the big boss. Now see this? All that Flux is now rock hard down there. What about the Flux that from Blackbeard? Look, we burned it a lot longer, and I just wiped it off with a cotton ball and alcohol. This one will not come off. Look at this. It became super hard. See? It's harder to get rid of his Flux than the Blackbeard's Flux, because the Flux from the Black Horse or the Blackbeard or the Blackface, whatever his name is all natural, whereas Northridge 6 is all synthetic. Just because it came from Canada doesn't mean it's healthy. So let's wipe this stuff off. We're going to bring in my Flux, well, not mine, but the Flux that I use from Steri for the longest time to do micro soldering, and we're gonna compare that, see how that does, and I will not be surprised that it would completely suck. Or it would completely not. Hard to say. Okay, wipe off the tip. Here's our tip, nice and clean. Let's go. A lot less smoke. The tip almost instantly becomes contaminated, as you can see. It starts to like cover in some kind of a layer. I don't even know what it is. Let's bring some more in here. Something, you can see something, it starts to cover the tip. It smells sweet, not the most pleasant smell, but not nasty like the NF.flux. And it evaporates so quick that I would almost certainly have to add more. And you can kind of see that it's like spread all the way around and it's flowing away from the working area, forcing me to apply more flux as I go. So definitely not ideal for this situation. So, but let's go ahead and wipe this disaster from the tip. And there we go. Tip is brand new. That's it for now. I hope I earn your like. And maybe I earn your subscription on top of that. That would be greatly appreciated. Goodbye.